The court did not find Jan Giegler to be a credible witness. Well, I don't find her to be a credible witness either. Want to know why? She lied on the stand, committed perjury in Sean Reyes's trial under Judge Chuck Stango, who lives in Waterbury and not Danbury. So I don't know why he's a Danbury judge. But she's not credible because she lies. She lies under penalty of perjury. So now, thank God, we have the court and the Supreme Court agreeing that the is not a credible witness. Hello, everybody. How are you doing on this fine Wednesday? I'm doing quite well. I haven't seen anybody talking about this at all. And I do want to say shout out to the person who did send me this information. I think it was actually a few months ago, but there was a lot of other stuff going on at the time. It kind of just slipped my mind, slipped under the radar, whatever. Well, I made a video recently, just the other day, about former mayor Dean Esposito losing the mayor race in Danbury. Jan Giegler, Lyin Jan, she also lost her race. Come to find out, there was all kind of stuff going on even before the actual voting happened. And in some people's opinion, and according to some people's allegations, we do have Jan Giegler and Dean Esposito allegedly conspiring to cheat in this election. Y'all know I have all the articles, all the court rulings and everything else, and we are going to actually be dedicating an entire BJ Investigates to this case. This video today on That Surprise Witness is just a little bit of preliminary investigation because I want to show y'all what I actually found so far. Now, thankfully, there is actually quite a robust and extensive local news reporting regime in Danbury, thankfully, because a lot of stuff that goes on in the town is reported on and is made into public information. The issue is there really isn't any outside of Danbury reporting on this issue, and it's very concerning because actually, as you could probably tell from the title thumbnail and come to find out, Jan and Dean Esposito lost at the Supreme Court level. The Supreme Court said that Jan overreached her statutory authority by trying to basically finagle the ballots in Danbury to look like she wanted them to look. It gets so intense. Let me just bring up the first of many articles. Okay, so the first one that I'm going to bring up is from September this year. So right now it's November 15th. This is like 2 months ago, right? This article right here. So I'm going to read the whole thing, but I want to show it to y'all. So the title says Danbury Independent Party endorsements may be up to court with two sides at war. Okay, so this came out on September 5th, 2023. Here we have a photo of I want to see if there's a pronunciation guide. So if I'm saying his name wrong, y'all need to blame the pronunciation guide I just looked up. Vyazna is what it told me, so I'm doing my best. Apparently, it's a name of Cambodian descent, and it means future or destiny. Okay, so Vyazna. So what we're looking at right here is a picture of the chairman of the Independent Party of Danbury. His name is Vyazna. I don't know how to pronounce that last name. We'll just call him Vyazna, okay? So Vyazna is the chairman of the Independent Party of Danbury. Now, it may be important to you. It may be worth mentioning here that Vyazna used to be a Republican, and then he did switch to being an independent. He did not want to be a Republican anymore for whatever reason. Okay, so this article, just to remind y'all, we are reading is from September. The title is Danbury Independent Party endorsements may be up to a court because there are two sides at war. Okay, this is from September, 2 months ago. We have Vyazna, the chair of the Independent Party of Danbury, with some other attendees, looks like some other higher ups in the Independent Party. And it says he is addressing attendees during the party's August 21st caucus at the Marin Hotel. Vyazna apologized to attendees for the way proceedings unfolded during the party's August 11th endorsement meeting. Okay, so what I'm basically doing here is I'm rewinding in time for y'all 2 months to kind of get a sense of what these people were even arguing about in the first place, because we're going to fast forward to a Supreme Court decision less than 2 months later that Lyin Jan was actually determined by a court not to be a credible witness, actually determined by a court to be looking out more for her own self-interests than the people of Danbury or than the rules and the statutes. But we're going to get into that. What I'm doing right now is I'm kind of showing y'all what led up to the dispute that ended up in the litigation very, very quickly unfolding within the course of 2 months. Okay. So here's that September article. Candidates running in the November municipal election may need to take legal action to determine whether the Republican or Democratic slates were rightfully endorsed by the Independent Party of Danbury. The Independent Party's endorsement is in question. Why? Because two factions backed opposing slates at separate meetings last month. So the reason this is important is because they end up putting the candidate that is endorsed by this independent party onto the ballot. We could probably make a whole video on the psychology of ballots and like what people vote for based on who's at the top, who's at the bottom and stuff like that. But basically a disagreement arose over who this independent party was going to endorse. Was it going to be Dean Esposito, the Republican, or was it going to be Roberto Alves, the Democrat? Now, fast forward, I know the answer. It ended up being neither, but we are going to see why that happened. So Vyazna, the independent party's formally recognized chairman, described the August 11th meeting where they endorsed the Democrat. That formally recognized chairman, Vyazna, he called that nomination or that endorsement, quote, illegal. And he called the endorsements invalid. Well, why? Why would he think that was invalid? We're going to get into it. An August 21st nominating caucus led by Vyazna endorsed a slate of Republicans, including Dean Esposito, former mayor, and town clerk Jan Giegler. Giegler said last month she believes the slate endorsed on August 21st is valid. Okay, so let's stop it right there. Okay, what's going on? What's going on? We have August 11th. Some people come together and endorse Alves, and they say, we want Alves to be on the ballot as the independent party endorsed person or whatever, right? Then you have 10 days later, August 21st, they vote again. And this time, the independent party decides we're not going to do that Democrat stuff that we had already voted on. No. Now they voted for Dean Esposito and Jan Giegler, who are already in their spots or whatever, who are the Republicans. So the chairman of the independent party, who used to be a Republican, he's saying that whenever they endorsed those Democrats, that was wrong. Endorsing the Republicans is what they meant to do. And so what they're trying to do is now get the Republicans on the ballot as being endorsed by the independent party. Well, here's Jan Giegler coming along going, well, I think the one that they voted on that had me on it, that's the one we need to go with because that's the one I think is valid. Okay, so you have Jan Giegler, who's literally just the town clerk, saying that she believes, just based on her belief, that the independent party endorsement that endorsed her and her friend Dean Esposito, then that one's valid. Y'all see the conflict here? It gets so much worse. These people are literally criminals, in my opinion, innocent until proven guilty, but somebody needs to put them on trial soon. Okay. And then this article goes into the fact that the Secretary of State disagreed with Jan. If there's more endorsements than offices to be held, then that is what's called an over endorsement, and you cannot place any candidates on the ballot. Okay, so basically in a situation such as this one, and the Supreme Court of Connecticut has now agreed, if a minority party like the Independent Party or the Green Party or whatever cannot come to a resolution on who they actually endorse, then nobody gets to get put on the ballot. It's not like, oh, the Independent Party endorses 3 people. No, if y'all can't come to a decision on who you want to endorse, then you have a split in the factions, and then nobody gets to be on the ballot. Y'all just need to go and vote on who you want to vote for, which does make the most sense. But that's not what Jan did. What Jan did was she just decided that the endorsement for the Democrat candidate was invalid, which was her opposition. She determined that the endorsement for her opposition was invalid and illegal. And so she didn't include them on the ballot, but she didn't stop there. Had she just stopped there, she probably would have been okay. She went a step further. She not only disenfranchised the voices of the people who had said they wanted Alves to be the endorsed party, but then she went a step further by putting her own ass self on the ballots for the independent endorsement. So she decided, based on no authority at all, not to put her opposition as the endorsed party, which again would have probably been okay in and of itself. But she took a step further and went ahead and just put her own self on the ballot as if she were endorsed by the independent party, whenever that isn't exactly what happened. So, long story short, she gets sued. The named plaintiff on the suit is Roberto Alves, the guy who's now the mayor of Danbury. He has won Danbury's mayor seat, and he sued Jan Giegler back in September. So let me show y'all another article that gets into that a little bit. This one is from over a month later. This one is from October 17th, 2023. Now, as you can see here, it says judge rules against Danbury town clerk in suit filed by Democrat mayor candidate. Again, we're not going to read this whole thing. We're just going to do like the last one and show y'all some of it. A Superior Court judge concluded Danbury town clerk Jan Giegler, quote, improperly exceeded her statutory authority in determining a slate of Democratic candidates received an invalid cross endorsement from the Independent Party of Danbury. Judge Maximo Medina Jr.'s decision appears in a 19-page written ruling. And I do have this ruling. We'll probably cover it maybe later, maybe in a live or something. Actually, y'all leave down below. Do you want me to? Because I was going back and forth today over whether to do a live, whether to do a pre-record. I really could not decide what to do. Obviously, what I ended up deciding was a pre-record. But the reason I wanted to do a live is because I want to kind of like actually read through line by line each one of these articles, each one of the court decisions. I kind of want to follow it through and do like a live investigation. Leave in the comments or leave in the live chat here if y'all are actually interested in that, because I'm going to be doing it anyway, whether I record it or not. But let me know if y'all would want to be kind of like let in on that process. Probably end up being a couple hour long live, kind of like that Brittany court hearing one I did. So leave in the chat or leave in the comments. You want to do like a live investigation where we're reading all these documents, like this 19-page court order and all that. I'm going to be doing it in any event, and it's going to be for a BJ Investigates, a little bit more higher production value, a little bit more efficient type of investigation. Okay, so the judge issued this 19-page written ruling that he issued Monday. But again, this is from like last month. This is from October 17th, so almost a whole month ago. So he issued the ruling in October on a lawsuit filed by Democrat mayor candidate Roberto Alves against Giegler. Also, he sued the Independent Party of Danbury chairman Viasna, and he sued incumbent, well, now he's former mayor, Republican Dean Esposito. Medina, the judge, also concluded Jan similarly exceeded her office's authority in determining that the independent party's purported endorsement of a slate of Republican candidates who included Esposito and Jan was valid. So remember when I kept reiterating over and over, not only did she keep the Democrats off the ballot, but she put herself and Dean on the ballot. The judge said in a 1-2 punch, both of those steps were absolutely not within Jan's authority to do. She should not have done that, according to the Secretary of State. She should not have done that, according to this lower court judge, and she should not have done that according to the Supreme Court of the state of Connecticut. She was trying to cheat. She was trying to cheat. And listen, we just did a voter ballot stuffing case the other day where in Connecticut, where was it? Waterbury or Bridgeport? Bridgeport, where the people who were allegedly, reportedly stuffing the ballot boxes were Democrats. Well, now we have Republicans trying to cheat, which is why I said in that video, I think all y'all are into parties that's cheating because they both do it. I really think that. That's why I don't think any one election really does get swung one way or the other in a presidential race, because I see in one state alone, literally in one election cycle, in one state alone, in the municipal elections happening on the exact same day, the Democrats over there in Bridgeport, they was cheating. And then we got the Danbury Republicans cheating. That's why I'm not neither one of them, because y'all are corrupt. Anyway, all right, let's get back to this article. So the judge said, yeah, not putting them other people on the ballot was exceeding Jan's authority, and putting her own self on the ballot was also exceeding her authority. What else does this article go on to say? Jan's lawyers have already filed appeals of the ruling with the Connecticut Supreme Court. Now, this article is outdated because the Supreme Court has affirmed the ruling, but at the time they had appealed it. And the lawyers were like, we're looking forward to the Connecticut Supreme Court vindicating the town clerk's actions, whatever. And remember, all this stuff is happening before the election actually took place. So this was all leading up to Jan and Dean trying to keep their little jobs, keep their position in power. And then it says the defense attorneys requested that the the Supreme Court review the case. Okay, so what happened? The Superior Court at the lower level ordered Jan to remove names of the candidates from the independent party of Danbury Lyin on the ballot. So, AKA, the judge ordered Jan to remove her own name and her own friend Dean Esposito's name off of this ballot. Now, other people who ran in the election did get affected, but we're just kind of talking about these three because we've talked about them on the channel before. So at the time, Alves did also have his attorney submit something asking the court to hold Jan Giegler in contempt of a court order for not yet printing and distributing new absentee ballots. Now, do y'all remember Jan Giegler is the lady in charge of the absentee ballot program in Danbury, or at least she was at the relevant times of this filing? We will, after this article, let's watch that video together where Jan tells you exactly what her job is when it comes to absentee ballots. But in this particular case right here, we have Roberto Alves last month saying, okay, well, Jan is in contempt of court because she refuses to print the new absentee ballots out, even though the court told her what to do. She's not doing it yet. Okay, the lawsuit was filed in September. It was saying that Jan acted beyond the scope of her authority. The conflicting slate endorsements would have basically affected every single election in Danbury, except for 4. So it seems like there's 4 races where the independent party factions either agreed or they just didn't disagree. So they would be able to appear on the ballots, but like Jan Giegler and Dean Esposito and, all of them or whatever, they couldn't appear on the ballots. Or Roberto Alves, like nobody. The judge said nobody can be on the ballot from the independent party because you have people from the independent party conflicting each other, and you can only have one independent party ballot endorsement per position that's being voted for. So you can't have like, oh, the independent party, half of them want Dean, half of them want Alves. No, the whole point of these endorsements is that the whole party agrees, right? So the obvious common sense thing to do is for a judge to say, all right, independent party, then y'all go independently vote for whoever you want to win because there doesn't seem to be a consensus on who y'all want to win. So just go vote it out. Okay, Medina, in his decision, wrote that the court carefully listened to witnesses' testimony, describing Giegler as, quote, the most significant witness. However, the court did not find her to be a credible witness. Whoops! The court did not find Jan Giegler to be a credible witness. Well, I don't find her to be a credible witness either. Want to know why? She lied on the stand, committed perjury in Sean Reyes's trial under Judge Chuck Stango, who lives in Waterbury and not Danbury. So I don't know why he's a Danbury judge. But she's not credible because she lies. She lies under penalty of perjury. So now, thank God, we have the court and the Supreme Court agreeing that the bitch is not a credible witness. Not surprising, not shocking, something we've known for at least a year. Quote, using her terms, this court finds she did not approach this admittedly messy situation in good faith. Her testimony, in the court's view, was often, but not always, evasive and inconsistent. She parried instead of answered questions from both counsel and the court, all in what this court concluded was an apparent effort to serve her self-interest. Y'all see that? She didn't really answer the questions that the lawyers or that the court, the judge, was asking her. And this court concluded the reason she didn't really answer the questions good is because there was an apparent effort to serve her self-interest. Shocking. Shocking. At one point, she openly looked to her own lawyer for help answering a question. To her credit, that only happened once. Earlier, in his discussion of the decision, Medina wrote, Giegler's testimony was not completely consistent. It varied. So in the judge's decision, he did note that Jan's first response to the question of why she rejected the Alves slate did play a major role into his decision. He says she didn't really keep her story straight, but when I asked her the first time why she rejected the certified endorsement of Alves, the Democrat, her opposition, she said the following. She had never rejected a certified slate, but she did so here, even though she knew it was her duty to accept it. and she was not aware of any statute that gave her authority to reject the certified slate of candidates. So basically, the judge is saying she didn't really provide any defense for why she did what she did. And the fact that the decision she made actually benefited her own self, it reeks of a conflict of interest. Jan's attorney, on the other hand, disputed the judge's decision to discredit Jan's testimony and defended her actions in deciding which of the independent party of Danbury slates was valid. Also, Das, Jan Giegler's attorney, was being paid by the citizens of Danbury tax money. So if you live in Danbury, you paid for Jan Giegler to defend herself against disenfranchising you. So her lawyer's like, Jan acted with integrity. Yeah, no, she didn't. Y'all can go read this article yourself too. I'm just kind of reading some relevant parts or whatever. Yeah, and then we have Alv's attorney saying we're not surprised by the court's ruling. Some of the stuff he says here is kind of funny. We brought this case because Danbury's town clerk, Jan Giegler, put her and her allies' political interests above their duty to the people of Danbury. After hearing directly from Lyin Jan, the court saw it the same way. Even worse, concluded that the town clerk was not truthful when she testified under oath, which isn't the first time. She also lied under oath in the Sean Reyes trial. Now, it's the voters' turn to decide whether that's the kind of leadership they want in City Hall. And the voters said, hell no, it is not. We do not want that type of leadership in City Hall. And she's voted out. Bye. You sucked at your job. Sucked at answering questions with the FOIA. She just absolutely sucked at everything she did. You know what she was good at? All right. Let me show y'all the absentee ballot movie that her and Dean Esposito made a year ago. Okay, I know we've seen clips and snippets of this. This is about 2 minutes long. But here's Jan and Dean just a year ago getting ready to try and cheat in the next election the next year. And you're going to have Dean Esposito and Lyin Jan explain to you what Jan's role is with the absentee ballot.
Hi, I'm Mayor Dean Esposito, and welcome to another episode of This Week in the City, where I go over absentee ballots with my friend and town clerk, Jan Giegler.
And to me, that's a tell. My friend and town clerk. It's just like whenever that Ann Donnelly lady was like, as I like to call him, Patty. Friend and town clerk. And I do think you should be friendly with the people who you work with and stuff like that. But it's like, my friend and town clerk. So it's like, yeah, your friend who tried to help you cheat a year later in the mayor race, but then you still lost.
People have died to give us the ability to vote.
He says that like more than once in this video too.
That's what this country's all about, and voting is the most crucial thing you could do when you become of age, to register to vote and do your civic duty.
Well, currently we're pretty busy with the number and the volume of absentee ballots that we're getting in. The state implemented a new portal which allowed them to request absentees on an electronic basis. We have to check them within 24 hours. They post them at midnight and we have to get them out within 24 hours, but we have to proof them. They have to fill out the ballot. They have to put it in an inner, what they call secret envelope, where they have to sign it, date it, put the ballot inside that envelope, and then put it in the outer envelope and drop it off to us. If you don't do that process and there's no inner envelope, then the ballots get disqualified when
She's laying out all the ways that your vote can get disqualified. And listen, I do think we should have some election integrity. I definitely don't have any problem with like making sure, 100% sure that the person who voted for the vote did vote the vote and it hadn't been tampered with and things like that. Like, I don't have a problem with that. I know some of y'all think it's like a disenfranchisement, but we do have to somehow, some way make sure that the people voting are the people voting. This seems like there was a substantial amount of absentee ballots. And we have Jan already wearing her prison uniform. So she's already manifesting her future if she keeps lying under oath. Yeah, so she's like, not an envelope, disqualified. Not here by 8 o'clock, disqualified. It's almost like she's making it known that she has the ability to disqualify votes. But I wonder if the votes come in for the candidates that she would like to win, and it does call it into question. It calls it into question every election that she's presided over, because a court has already determined she will put her own self-interest above the integrity of the election that she's running. I think the woman needs to be charged criminally. I truly do. I think that the state or whoever it is that like looks into this, the state attorney general, I don't think that we need to be allowing town clerks like this to just cheat and lie and steal elections, because it, again, puts the integrity of the entire democratic process of voting under scrutiny and up for criticism. We need people with some type of ethics and integrity in these offices. And thank God Janice Giegler is no longer the town clerk. All right. Let's see what else she has to say here.
They count on election day the absentee ballots. We are requesting people use the mailbox outside of City Hall. It's a voter box to drop them off. They can mail them in. They have to be here by 8 o'clock on election day. Anything comes in after that, then they're not counted. There is a way you can go onto the SOT's website. You can go into voter registration, put your name in, and it'll tell you the process. It'll show you when your absentee ballot arrived here. It'll show you when we mailed it out and when it came back to us, so somebody can track their whole absentee.
I would ask that every single person that's eligible to vote, please do, because as we said earlier, people have lost their lives to give us
He's very interested in people losing their lives.
the ability to be able to go out and express our
People have lost their lives to have the ability to vote, according to Dean Esposito twice, but he lets his friend cheat so he can win. So what kind of integrity is that?
our opinion and our concerns by voting for those they feel that are going to do the best job for the city.
Well, you lost because you're a loser and you deserve to lose. Okay, so let's look at one more article. Then I think we'll be done for today. Okay, so this one is from October 20th, and it says Connecticut High Court upholds ruling against Danbury Town Clerk in suit filed by Democrat mayor candidate. The Connecticut Supreme Court upheld the lower court's ruling that determined Danbury Town Clerk Jan Giegler exceeded her statutory authority when assessing the validity of two different slates of candidates from the Independent Party of Danbury. Again, I just need to reiterate, I really don't think Jan would have gotten in trouble if she just didn't put any endorsed candidate on the Independent Party of Danbury's line on the ballot. Now, she did end up getting in trouble for not putting them on there. She ended up getting in trouble for even so much as not putting them on there, because when that first endorsed whatever came to her, it did endorse her opponents and the Democrats, who she's not one of. The court did hold her responsible for not just printing out ballots that had that on it. But I think if Jan would have never went that next step further and put her own damn self on the ballot instead, I don't think the court would have probably held her in that much of trouble. But because she did the 1-2 punch, she took off the rightful nominees and put her own self and her own friends on instead. You see what I'm saying? Okay. But also, I have no idea. I don't know. I wasn't on the court. I wasn't on the, I'm just guessing. All right. It's just opinion. The ruling means only 4 candidates who are in races for seats on the city council and the Board of Education will appear on the Independent Party line of the November 7th ballot in Danbury. So, like I told y'all already, there are 4 candidates whose appearance on the ballot was not affected in any way, so they did get to appear as being endorsed by the party. Meanwhile, the top of the ticket, including the mayor race, will not show a candidate endorsed by the Independent Party of Danbury. The High Court issued its ruling from the bench Friday after oral arguments from attorneys representing both sides. The ruling affirms the lower court's decision, terminates a stay on the printing of absentee ballots that was in place. Okay, so basically this court's like, yeah, and now y'all need to print the ballots. Alves filed a lawsuit in September alleging that Jan had unlawfully declared Republican Party nominated candidates as cross-endorsed by the Independent Party of Danbury. Alves' campaign issued a statement on the ruling. And what did he say? It described local Republicans as having abused the town clerk's office, that's Jan and Dean, to quote, this is a quote from Alves, unlawfully steal the Independent Party ballot line in the upcoming November 7th election. The Supreme Court ruled, this is a quote, once again, that the mayor and town clerk were wrong and ordered them to print new ballots immediately. The conflict stems from the conflicting endorsements from 2 factions of independent voters. One group endorsed the Democratic slate, and another group that says it's the rightful Independent Party of Danbury endorsing the Republican slate. In a statement, Alves, the new Democratic mayor, he said for the second time in 8 days, Dean Esposito and town clerk Giegler's Nixonian dirty tricks have failed in court. I think he's meaning like he's comparing them to like Watergate. Their decades-long effort to consolidate their power has resulted in blind entitlement and disregard for the law. They have taken Danbury voters and taxpayers for granted for too long. Esposito and Giegler wasted taxpayer dollars once again to appeal a case they already lost. Alves called on Giegler to, quote, immediately place an emergency order for the printing of new ballots for the November 7th election to prevent further disenfranchisement of voters. Danbury Democratic Town Committee Chairman Larry Reifberg described Giegler as not a trustworthy individual after the court ruling. Quote, we do not trust her to do the right thing, Reifberg said when asked about the printing of absentee ballots. Meanwhile, the Republican Town Committee disagrees. He said it's a sad day that this court ruling even happened. The decision opens up a can of worms for other minority party in another town. Dean Esposito was also reached for this article, and he defended Jan Giegler and said that city tax dollars were used to defend her in the case. Quote, Jan was a state representative for 14 years, which already gives me a little bit of suspicion. You can't be that for 14 years and keep your soul, I'll say that. In my opinion, I don't know. Jan is one of the most, this is Dean Esposito talking about lying ass Jan, who we have all watched lie. We all watched it with our own eyes, the woman lie under penalty of perjury. And here's Dean Esposito acting like we didn't all see that. Jan is one of the most trustworthy, hardworking people I've ever met. Yeah, a lot of times people conspiring to disenfranchise voters are working very hard. So she probably does work hard. It's very hard to work on the wrong side of history all the damn time. Esposito said, describing his opponent's lawsuit as frivolous to me. Well, it must not be frivolous because the Supreme Court agreed. He said it's all a political game plan by my opponent. And it might be all a political game plan, but it was also a political game plan for y'all to rig up and cheat on the ballots. That was political game plan too. So it's got to be good for the goose, good for the gander. You know what I mean? You the goose. The lawsuit was not frivolous, according to Alves' attorney, and it's not frivolous according to me. Roberto Alves showed tremendous leadership in being willing to bring the lawsuit because he saw a town clerk and administration that wasn't playing by the rules. That's exactly what the judge saw, and he was vindicated by the Supreme Court ruling from the bench. Ooh, probably feels so good. The High Court's ruling upholds the decision of a Superior Court judge in Danbury who concluded that Giegler exceeded, okay, we already read that part. In the legal brief he filed with the court, Alves' attorney argued that Jan Giegler failed to file a slate of candidates nominated during the independent party's August 11th caucus. The lawyer said that the slate met statutory certification and timeliness requirements, so the slate of candidates approved during the independent party's August 21st caucus that Giegler filed did not comply with state statute because it was not properly certified, he said. So this is interesting. So basically, on top of all the other issues we've already discussed, there's certain rules that have to be met. There's certain requirements that have to be met in order for Jan to accept the nomination and put it on the ballot. According to the lawsuit, and now according to the two judicial decisions, the Democratic nomination by the independent party was valid and certified appropriately by the statute. But that next one that came in that Jan ultimately ended up actually going with, it wasn't even certified by statute. It was not even meeting the requirements of her to accept it, which does make sense that the judge would then decide that she exceeded her authority because she basically broke the statute, according to this filing. Jan's attorney, Proloy Das, who was being paid by the taxpayers of Danbury, thank you very much, argued that Jan did meet her statutory obligations because the slate of candidates nominated during the election was made in accordance with the state statutes. The lawyer argued that Jan was prohibited from accepting such a slate. Then this independent party chairman's attorney chimed in. He argued that the slate of candidates nominated at the Republicans was facially certified. And he says, quote, here, the office of town clerk took the nomination submission on its face. It was signed as authentic by the presiding officer who noticed the meeting and therefore accepted as properly certified. So basically, it doesn't even matter what they try to argue because they flopped, they failed, they flailed, they lost. Danbury Superior Court Judge Maximino Medina Jr.'s ruling on Monday came several days after he issued an order for the town clerk to remove the names of all but 4 candidates from the independent party line on the ballot. Those candidates are running in races that did not have conflicting endorsements, which we've already talked about. Now, I have the 19-page ruling from the lower court. I can probably find the Supreme Court ruling if they have actually issued their opinion at this point. Let me know if y'all want me to come back and read that with y'all. I'm going to be reading it anyway, regardless. But let me know if y'all would want to kind of do a live reading, kind of a little bit old school, court document line by line. It'll be probably a few hours long, just kind of like a hangout, be a little bit different than this. But I did want to tell y'all all of this stuff regardless, because I am in the investigation process for BJ Investigates, and I just couldn't keep it in. I just couldn't hold it in. Also, y'all did really seem to like the last video I did about, Danbury mayor loses re-election. And this is basically like a prequel. This is basically a prequel to that story. So maybe the BJ Investigates will have like, he loses the re-election, but then we'll have this prequel leading up to it or something like that. I really don't know. I don't know. But yeah, I wanted to show y'all this because, oh man, a few things. Looks like we got some dirty lying cheaters. This is opinion. This is not just my opinion, but it looks like we have some dirty lying cheaters in Danbury who did lose rightfully their spots. What's his name? Alves. Roberto Alves has not reached out to me, which is just such an alarming shame. That surprisewitness@gmail.com. If you change your mind, I know you definitely saw that last video, but it would be nice if we could get him on the podcast to discuss what he's planning to do in the future, of Danbury. But also specifically, I would like to ask him if he's planning to pursue any charges on behalf of the citizens of Danbury to recover their funds from Lyin Jan and Dean Esposito. Is he planning on having any independent auditors looking into the Danbury Career Academy? I mean, that's like a $200 million project that the citizens of Danbury didn't even get the opportunity to vote on in the first instance because it was kind of passed in the dead of night whenever all these mandatory shutdowns were put into place. And then little by little, they just kept increasing the budget and it went from like 99 million to like 200 million or something. It's really crazy. I would like to talk to Mayor Roberto Alves to ask him what he's planning on doing about that career academy to make sure that there wasn't anything untoward that went on. Because it's clear to me, in my opinion, that these people are willing to cheat to help their friends out. So who are the contractors here? How much did they pay for the building? Who sold the building? I mean, I do know who sold the building, and the man ended up in a conservatorship for all I understand, but that's neither here nor there. Yeah, this video was kind of intentionally a little bit disjointed, a little bit kind of like, look, a squirrel, because we are going to be definitely doing a full BJ Investigates to go over there, live over there in the archives. The last BJ Investigates we did on Danbury or on anything Long Island audit related was about a little less than a year ago. I think it was about February we did that. So that's all I really have for today. Yeah, I mean, the gist is courts are saying that Jan and Dean are lying and cheating, and they're not credible and they were lying under perjury. In my opinion, that's what I understand it to mean. These are all publicly available documents. I do invite and encourage y'all to go and do your own research on the situation, look them up yourselves, and come up with your own opinions. I'm just here to give my opinion, a little commentary, a little comedy, a little parody, a little haha hee hee First Amendment protected activity over here. So don't get your wires in a bunch over there in Danbury. Anyway, that's all I really have for today. In the meantime, facts ain't defamation. Love you, mean it, K, bye.